Minister, I want to ask you why the reason why third-level students here are required to pay the highest fees in the EU, and what you plan to do to address that inequality before the next academic year. I'm really concerned for households that are paying up to 60% of their income on rent and on mortgage payments, and they don't have the money for these huge fees to send their children to third-level education. Thank you.
Minister.
Deputy Conway-Walsh, I suppose whilst you can use the European Union reference, I suppose it only works because Northern Ireland isn't currently in the European Union, because a student in Northern Ireland today will pay €4,530 sterling a year and will have to meet that cost in full through student loans, which I think, I just checked the conversion rate today, would mean that a student in Northern Ireland is paying fees every year of €5,247. So if Northern Ireland was in the European Union still, the question would need to be somewhat altered. But I do take very seriously the point the Deputy makes. My department's statement of strategy, which I published on the 8th of March, it does contain a commitment to put in place a sustainable funding model for higher education. This is essential in ensuring that our higher education institutions can effectively meet high standards of quality and performance and achieve critical outcomes. As the Deputy will know, there was a comprehensive evaluation of the funding options contained in the Cassell's report. We then, the last Oireachtas all-party committee, asked for the European Commission, it asked for an independent economic evaluation of those options to be carried out. The European Commission and independent expert consultants were put in place. This review is currently being finalised. I expect to receive it in Q2 of this year. I'll be very happy on that occasion to brief the Deputy and indeed to, no doubt, debate it in this House. I think this analysis did highlight the high level of fee support, amounting to in excess of €500 million per annum. This comprises of funding for tuition of almost 140,000 eligible undergraduate higher education students, and we do now have over 60,000 students having all or part of their €3,000 student contribution paid. So sometimes I worry when the message goes out about the student contribution fee that people considering accessing higher education think that every student in the country has to pay €3,000. We do have a situation where nearly half of our students under the SUSI grant scheme get their registration fee paid in full or in part. We are obviously reviewing SUSI to make sure that more students are captured in relation to that. But what I would say to the Deputy is I do think the student registration fee is very high in this country. I would like to see it reduced. It has to be done as part of a sustainable funding model. What we won't be doing is introducing the student loan scheme that we've seen in other jurisdictions. I don't think that's a good model, and I do expect to be able to outline to this House sustainable funding models for higher education later this year.
Conway-Walsh.
Hi, Minister. That was a bit of a mixed answer in a sense. It's not good enough, I think, to say that we're not as bad as them. We are the highest in the EU, and in the last decade or so, we've seen, in the words of the Irish Universities Association, the state embark on a sustained period of disinvestment from higher education, and we've seen a withdrawal of the state from higher education. The third-level institutions are given 50% less funding per student than in 2008. That's 72% less if we count for inflation, almost 3/4 less per student. The fact speaks for themselves, Minister. So the cost was pushed onto the students and families, and fees were increased from €850 in 2008 to €3,000 today. And it's an issue of equality of access. If we want an equal and fair education system, this barrier needs to be removed, because education is a public good and needs to be treated as such and needs to be invested as such. And Minister, there's an absolute unfairness in the contribution fee for the Leaving Cert students last year, who found out that they were upgraded, that their grade was upgraded in the Leaving Cert, that they sat in November, got the results, and they're charged that contribution fee again. Could I ask you to address that as well? Thank you.
I think, I tend not to be overly partisan. I don't mean to be overly argumentative, but I do think the comparison I made with Northern Ireland is fair, because Northern Ireland is a devolved administration. I have no political jurisdiction in Northern Ireland. The Scottish First Minister managed to abolish fees. When is Sinn Féin in government in Northern Ireland going to do the same? Where is the commitment to doing that? When are you going to deliver it? You had the Department of Education in the North, had a Sinn Féin education minister for 5 of the last 10 years, and you expect a student in Northern Ireland today to pay €5,247 every year, and then you give out to me in this House about €3,000. So it does go to the point of consistency. I want to reduce the contribution fee in this country. I have to do it as part of a sustainable funding model for the reasons you outlined, Deputy Conway-Walsh, because we want more students to get into higher education and we want to properly fund higher education. But look at what we've done in this jurisdiction. Pandemic unemployment payment for students, doubling of the Student Assistance Fund, 15,000 free laptops, the €250 top-up to the Student Grant Scheme, first increase in the postgraduate student support in a decade, and we've done this in a department that's less than a year old. So we want to do a lot more in relation to this, but we have, I think, already shown a very significant level of commitment to students, and I accept we've a lot more to do. And my direct answer to the question is we intend to bring forward the sustainable funding model for higher education in our country this year.
Deputy.
Minister, you can dress it up all you like, but we still have the highest fees here, and we compared them to 2008. And you know the situation in the north is where we're dependent on a block grant. But please God, it won't be long until we have Irish unity and we have an all-island approach to education, which I hope you will agree with, that will serve all of the students across this island, where we won't have fees and we won't be creating barriers for students going to third-level education. Minister, I need to ask you as well around the postgraduate fees. What has happened during COVID is absolutely extortionate. What's happened in some of these where they have been sold an experience that was never delivered. And I want to draw your attention, and I'll send it to you separate, around the university in Limerick that have promised students study trips. That was worked into, they were charged €1,600 for them, and now they cannot get this money back, even though they've never had the student fees. I'll send you a separate note on it, Minister, but we really need to do something to address the financial barriers for students.
I think Deputy Conway-Walsh and I are both committed to working on an all-island basis, and I'm very much committed to working with you in relation to that. But Nicola Sturgeon didn't tell the people of Scotland that she had to wait for Scottish independence to do what she did in relation to these. And I'm just wondering, you're asking me a question, I'm just wondering when Sinn Féin in government are going to address the issue of Irish people on the island of Ireland having to pay €5,247 a year and having to defer that into student loans and coming out of college heavily indebted. And what I'm saying to this House, Cahirlock, is what this government will not do is introduce a system of the student loans that unfortunately Sinn Féin and others are presiding over on this island. We won't do that. In relation to the specific issue regarding Limerick, I'd be very happy to engage with you, and I know you're going to send me on the information. Thank you.